So we're going to move on now to the next section. And I'm going to change the schedule around. I was originally going to talk about our executive dashboard, but I'm going to go into the RTO because David wants to speak to that a little bit about the best practices, and he has to leave very shortly. So this RTO DMO platform is something that we did in 2012. It's certainly far more valuable for organizations which cover a huge geographic expanse, but there's possible elements to even larger cities to use some of the programming that was done in place. It took us a long time. In the spring of 2012, we spent about 1,200 hours at this. What we inevitably did was we created these relationships between all our DMO partners. You know, in the past, all our clients, again, are set up on individual databases. However, what we essentially did was create the connectivity between two DMOs and the ability to move product, both packages, inventory, up to a senior, a higher level, or within the individual DMOs themselves. What you've got on the screens in front of you, at the very top is a mock diagram of RTO4. They're acting as a parent. Their organization, for anyone's not familiar with it, almost covers right up to the shores of Lake Huron, Stratford, Kitchener-Waterloo, Cambridge, and almost abuts right up to Milton. And underneath RTO4, we have currently 5 sort of sub-DMOs. And they've been labeled accordingly. Stratford Festival is obviously one of the key players underneath the RTO4 umbrella. We have Perth County, Huron County, Wellington County, and the Waterloo region. Each one of those child-level DMO partners has the flexibility to maintain their autonomy. They can operate under different business models. So one DMO partner can turn around and use the retail model where they do not own the transaction. The next child-level DMO can operate under the wholesale model and turn around and basically own all the transactions. They can be skinned differently. They can have different process flows, different bridge functions, different functionality. But the program that was created in the spring of 2012 was the ability to take all that inventory out from the child-level DMO partners and extrapolate it up to the parent level. The top-level DMOs are now going to be turning around, and when it's deployed accordingly, they are basically putting down the infrastructure on behalf of all these child-level partners. You know, many of the organizations that we are now starting to deal with are very small, 1 or 2 person DMO partners, and they wouldn't necessarily have the funds or the infrastructure in place to turn around and engage Meridian. But through the creation of this RTO system in Ontario, the proper deployments is you're seeing the RTO come down and put the infrastructure in place on behalf of all their DMOs underneath their jurisdiction. That child-level DMO is now starting to expand in terms of what that is. You know, that can also, you know, be expanded to individual large-scale events or groups of bed and breakfast associations. And what we're really attempting to do is to increase the number of access points into the system. The more access points into the overall system, the more likelihood we're going to turn around and generate more transactions. So once again, product is moving up to this parent level. Now, in a larger city like a Vancouver or a Toronto or a Calgary, that child level could conceivably be, once again, a section or a group of hoteliers underneath the greater geographic expansion. Now, Toronto, are you still, how far are your boundaries right now? You still take in, okay, so let's say hypothetically, does Mississauga and Brampton have a tourism office?
Yes.
You yourselves, okay. So there is no presence whatsoever. Okay.
There's a web presence. They run their own sites, but they feed into Toronto now for full functionality.
For full functionality. Okay, let's just say hypothetically, you kind of deal with David Bednar then, maybe at the CNE. That's a website. That's an attraction which can get huge volumes of traffic for a very small peak period at the end of August. If that organization hypothetically had a preferred list of 15 hotel partners, and they turned around and said, okay, well, we'll work with Toronto Tourism, you are the foundation, you are giving us the infrastructure behind this. This is our requirements, we want the booking engine skinned accordingly. We want this functionality to take place. We will drive all the traffic into Toronto Tourism. That CNE, and they want access to the reporting. They want access to certain numbers. They can be set up as a child, subject to the greater Toronto Tourism model, and have limited access to whatever you want to give them. But if they want to turn on make the bookings, they can do so. That's just a quick example. Candace?
I was wondering if this could be also applicable to a PMO, either working with DMOs or regional DMOs or even individual.
The PMO, it would be the top level, the parent level. The DMOs are all the child levels. You could have that grandfather, father, and child structure in place. You can move all the data upwards onto the provincial website if you wanted. So that functionality is there. So let's say in the province of Ontario, because that's where the vast majority of our deployments are, if the province were at any one point wanting to extrapolate the inventory right now out of the DMO systems, the hotel, the accommodation inventory, the experiential packages, the property level packages, we can give that to them. They take it up. What happens after the booking is made, at the very top, all the data is moved downwards. So let's say if the province of Ontario was selling an experiential package for Sault Ste. Marie, Ian's Agua Canyon package, which is very successful. The parent level will record the booking. They'll see that that booking was recorded from OntarioTravel.net. The booking is also really recorded in Sault Ste. Marie's system. In this case, Sault Ste. Marie owns the transaction. They would sell it as a banker. The province I could never see acting as a banker right across the board, but Ian's organization is now the banker. So they've taken the money in their payment gateway, the funds are still there. But even though the booking started at the provincial level, it's still recorded at the hotel that was booked, the Agua Canyon train ride, their attraction, extranet, and all the other attractions which have been added in as the package. So that multiple layer, the ability to move data upward, all the booking data downward is in place. So
I'm thinking of tourism PC, and I know that this would be probably an ultimate kind of system for them, working with all of their operators across the province,
and it's really what the DMOs want, because instead of linking directly off, a PMO can use a third-party system, but right away, invariably, they link off right to the city's hotel base. They don't see the experiences. They don't see the DMO's version of the city. It's very quickly right to the hotel, book it, you're out of the system. Under this type of scenario, it links down. You're controlling the messages. Now, whatever rules and agreements you put in place with the PMO, they can turn around and select whatever packages they want out of the RT, out of the DMO, and extrapolate them up. They don't have to take them all. They can take select ones.
yeah. Well, I like that idea, being the DMO, but
Yeah.
I'm curious, does that DMO level need to be there when it's a provincial body of just the parent? Can it go work directly with the accommodation?
Not sure what you mean.
Well, you're saying about the inventory coming up from the accommodation level through the DMO essentially.
Right to the PMO.
DMO. So what I'm asking is that, does that central DMO layer need to be there at all?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it doesn't necessarily need to be there, but without that, then you can't have that flexibility on tourismvancouver.com, because now you're going back to this concept of a universal source code. The minute you start to set up the individual DMOs under one code base, then you're losing that flexibility, because you're going to slowly build up your system. And we've done a lot of customization recently. Next door Victoria or Richmond, BC might do something totally different.
I totally want to go work with us on that.
Right. It gives all the control back to you. All they really become is a sales channel. And it's very easy for them to take that inventory upwards. There's not very many resources required of a PMO to do so. You're really acting as a ground operator. they're just another sales channel. And in some cases, you as DMOs are always working with the PMO or the NTO for better linkage to get them to link directly down to your organization and let you take the transaction from there to sell the city based upon what's more valuable, what you think is the best. I see a hand go up. Anyways, David, RTO4 has done a pretty good job, and throughout this DMO process, I'm going to let him speak to this a little bit about what the best practices are in engaging the DMO partners. Do you want to stand up? Or?
You want to stand up? Sure, I'll stand up. Do you want me to come up there?
If you'd like to, yeah.
All right. First thing I want to say is DMOs are not just a distribution channel. They are the source of content. DMOs who live and breathe every day on the street in their own environments, working in lower first with operators, working in Waterloo events. If they're not there creating product, then your job becomes ultimately that much harder. They have been creating product for 40, 50 years in some cases. The product they create is the stuff that populates your system, is the stuff that gives you product, the stuff that makes the mix. All right. So let me start at the beginning. There's 4 RTO EDs here. Or put your hands up. It's 4 DMO. Okay.
In the country in Alberta, is partly in RTO as well.
I have a really short and relatively informal presentation here. We were asked to talk about best practices, and I want to go right back to the beginning for a second here. When we started out in the RTO game, we had that luxury of like walking into grade 9 with a brand new clean notebook, no scribbling on it, no crappy titles, no misspelling. With that clean sheet of paper, you get to start at the beginning and you say, can we actually affect tourism growth in Ontario, and how would we go about it? And again, with a clean sheet of paper, we got to start from 0 position. So as a best practice, and I know all my peers are doing this, but I cannot emphasize enough goal, strategy, measurement. And I think what often gets swept aside in tourism marketing is the goal side of things, because we do so much, and our DMOs do so much with such limited budgets that they've never really been able to step into the goal side of the equation, set a real hard targeted goal. Out of your goal flows your strategy, and the strategies are never complex. They're simple things. Our strategy, very simply, I hope my CMO doesn't kill me for sharing with you, is drive overnights. We're a region with a high preponderance of day trips. We need to shift to overnights. We need to win day trippers over to staying overnight. We need to reach further afield for those people. We need to package our offerings in a compelling way that makes people come and stay, instead of 3 hours, 4 to 6 hours, and then push into that overnight situation. The third part of that, the third part of any business model in business development is measurement, and that is such a key element here. It's the one that often gets left out. So thinking of goal, strategy, measurement as a best practice, I can't say enough. You got to set that goal. You got to pick a number. You got to pick a growth target. It's not arbitrary. It's based on what's your regional economic impact, how much money do you have to affect that. We're a region that supposedly does $890 million worth of tourism regional economic impact every year. That algorithm is long, complicated, and so old that most people can't tell me where it came from. Even in the best instance of Meridian implementation, regional reservation system implementation in our region, I anticipate in 2 years we'll be doing $1.5 million to $2 million. We won't capture anywhere near all of the tourism regional economic impact, but we'll have a measurement system through our partnership with the University of Guelph that will be able to index against that on an ongoing, longitudinal basis and tell us when our marketing is making a difference, when our packaging is working, when our DMOs are engaged. And so, goal, strategy, measurement. John, if you want to just pull up that slide. I will say one other thing. In our region, we have 7 DMOs, 7 partnership DMOs. So you saw a slide that said Stratford, Waterloo, Wellington, Perth, and Huron. That even itself is in evolution because all of our DMO partners are about to become active member partners on the reservation system. And it's not easy for them to get there. They have limited resources. They have time spent doing what they do at their core, which is marketing. And they actually do product development. As much as they have no budget to do it, I watch them do it all the time with their people. So here's the first best practice. How many DMOs from my region are here today? 7. Well, actually 6, because one of them got sick in the spinning restaurant. But 7 went home. 7 to 7. So this whole question, at the RTO level, can you work with your DMOs? You don't have a choice. You don't have a choice. You don't have a choice. DMOs don't have a choice. They've got to work with their operators, and their operators are obdurate and annoying and wonderful, and But without that B&B, without that perfect little museum, without all of those things, right on up through the RTO, right on up through the provincial hierarchy, you don't have a product. So first of all, you just got to put it aside and say, whatever it takes to work with the DMOs, you've got to win them over. And sometimes it's by entreating them, sometimes it's by pushing them a little bit, sometimes it's by capitulating and giving in. But until you have that hierarchy established and a set of roles and responsibilities clearly defined, you won't have the product you need to build the system. So I'm going to borrow a slide here. I saw this yesterday from my CMO and the COO of RTO4, Dave Simpson, stand up. So I'm going to steal his thinking. He's the brains behind RTO4. So I thought I should give him credit.
You're just there for good looks and charm.
Yeah, charm anyway. We look at our business in essence in terms of 4 pillars. We've got product, distribution, communication, and measurement, and that goes back to our core business model. On the product and packaging side, as I said earlier, we're a region that's unlike Joel's region. Joel has a region that I use an example. It's like Pittsburgh. If you think you're going to Pittsburgh this weekend with your family, and there's a lot of people in this room that represent Toronto-like destinations, Ottawa, you're another one. Someone decides to go to Pittsburgh, they need to know where they're going to stay, what it's going to cost, and they've already decided to go there. We are a considerably different region. We're a region that's made up of a huge geographic expanse, 140 odd kilometers across, 120 high, 7 different DMOs, a wealth of different experiences, and a preponderance of day trips. Our proximity to Toronto is our weakness. We need to make it our strength. So on the product side, we need to take our strengths, and this was a hard-fought battle. We worked with our DMOs to pare down all the wonderful things that we all do in the democracy of tourism, all 1,000 things, to 5 major themes that were capable of cutting through the marketing clutter in Ontario. And it was a lot of back and forth, and we come up with the fact that with the Stratford Festival, the Drayton Entertainment Properties, the Blythe Festival, there's no question we are a market leader in Ontario in theatre. We come up against the reality that with 4 heritage towns, Laura Fergus, St. Jacobs, Stratford, and Bayfield, and the history of what they call the Canada Company route, the second tier of Ontario settlement after the 1820s, we've got these wonderfully distinct, intact, historic small towns. We've got great soft outdoor experiences. We don't go head-to-head with James and Explorer's Edge because we are not the canoe capital of the world. But we have got some of the best unspoiled beachfront you've ever seen, and we've got the wonderful Grand River running through the east part of the county, so we compete on that basis. This one surprises me. We have a motorsports leverageable position. We have 3 events that between them push 150, 140,000 people between the Walton Trans-Canada Motocross Finals, which is way up in Huron County, which sees somewhere between 50 and 80,000 people, depending on whether it's having a good year. The Mopar car show in Grand Bend, and the NHRA Dragster Final. So by default, we're a motorsports destination. What that really means in the end when we come to agreement with our DMOs on this is it means that we can use those things to cut through the marketing clutter in Ontario and not go out and compete where we're not strong. We are not strong at wilderness canoe tripping. We are not strong, and one of the 5th category we did throw in there was agriculture. We have such a rich agricultural heritage that it can't be ignored. Do we really think we're a culinary destination? No, it's probably the one of our demand generators that needs the most work. But every DMO, it's close to their heart. Restaurants are a key part of travel, and we put it in there. We know it's not our strongest. But can we compete provincially on it? Frankly, no, not yet. There's other regions that are doing a better job, and in the product development world, we have to look at that. But those are the 5 things we use to cut through the clutter. We generally use 4 of them, and we use agri-culinary as a supporting player. With the ability to cut through the marketing clutter in Ontario now, with the ability to get a message out to you that our region's worth coming to do X, let's say it's the Stratford Festival. great. There's 3 hours of your life, but if you live, closer to 2 hours away, you're probably going home. So it becomes critically important at this product side to package. Packaging, quite simply, we all know packaging is putting experiences together that compel the consumer to stay long. If we can get them to that magic 4 to 6 hour threshold, they stay. So we're not like a Toronto. We have to put our best stuff together. We have to amalgamate stuff. We're not a destination that someone wakes up and I tell this story, depending who's in the room differently. But so since Waterloo's in the room and they're in a good mood today, I'll pick on them. Nobody wakes up in Toronto on a Tuesday morning, rolls over and says, honey, hotel rooms are just $110 in Waterloo. Let's go there this weekend. It doesn't work that way. And what they say is, have you ever been to St. Jacobs Market? And then if the St. Jacobs Market, often they'll come, they'll stay 2 hours, St. Jacobs Market, headed on back home. We need to get them to come to the St. Jacobs Market and then take the trolley ride to Martin's Farm to see maple syrup. And then they start looking, and this is where the mobile app will be really useful to us, then they start looking and saying, we can stay overnight. And our hotel rooms at $100, $110 are a phenomenal deal. They're great, they're competitive. But that wasn't the driver. We're a very different region. We don't drive based on accommodation, we drive based on experiences. The reservation system, the call center, we did partner with the Stratford Festival to operate a call center for the entire region because we felt it was essential to remove barriers to sale. Meridian reservation system is one of the things that help us remove barrier to sale. The call center is the other thing. It's hooked in actually to the Meridian reservation system, but it makes it easy to buy and easy to sell. On the marketing communications side, we went a little bit different, and I know not a lot of you are aware of our marketing. Our marketing was focused on those demand generators. We went very experiential. We went with some sites called I Like Theatering, I Like Outdoorsing, I Like Family Fun, that fit into our demand generators. We are now turning back to our iconic destinations, Stratford, Bayfield, St. Jacobs, and Elora, and incorporating them more into the market. We need destination brand presence. I don't like the B word. Those of you in the presentation yesterday know we've avoided a brand very successfully for 2 years in our region because we've got these great sub-brands that do cut through the clutter. There's no point creating Middle Waterloo, Ontario, another meaningless layer on top of that. Okay, sorry, Middle St. Jacobs, Ontario. We're happy with our marketing communications. You hear this all the time. Don't contract out your thinking. Your marketing and communications are your strategy. As the consumer sees it, don't hand it off. Make sure you're heavily, heavily involved. We love our agency, and they love us, and they hate us at the same time. We've actually got a person embedded a day a week in their office just to make sure that things stay on track and on strategy. And then the final phase of this is the measurement system. University of Guelph's done a phenomenal amount of work with Meridian in terms of creating the dashboard and some of the other stuff you'll look at today. They're also working with us to create a longitudinal analysis of how this whole thing rolls out in the RTO's case. What's the impact like? How does their follow-up survey stuff is amazing. They're actually capable of follow-up surveys 3 days after experience. When you're a rural destination where you're left with the impression that conventional tourism survey models underreport because they overreport urban stays and underreport rural stays, it makes a huge difference. So we're really excited about having a measurement system in place that can compare year-to-year growth. So where does that all take me? It takes me to a question is, if you're looking at a Meridian reservation system as a strategy, is it a good idea? And the answer is no, it's a terrible idea. It's not a strategy, it's a tactic. It's a tactic that's highly effective. It's a tactic that when you put it into a properly designed business case model is an incredibly effective tool. But too often, and you'll have this discussion with your individual members, you'll have this discussion with your DMOs. Too often a reservation system is held up as, this is the solution, our strategy is a reservation system. It's not sufficient. Necessary, but not sufficient. The strategy is, what do you do to differentiate yourself in the marketplace? How do you work with your partners to create compelling packaging and products? How do you distribute that, and how do you measure it? Back to that goal, strategy, measurement model we talked about. And when you do it in concert with all those other things, it's a brilliant tool. I will tell you, I went to Seattle last year to DMAI to basically see if John was on the up and up. There's a good word for it. And I looked at reservation systems, and I talked to a number of American suppliers, and I looked at the Jackrabbits and stuff. They all have merits, but none of them had a customized ability that we saw here. And the biggest difference, if you compare Joel's model to our model, we borrowed everything we did from Ottawa, Toronto, Niagara Falls even, but it's so utterly different when we implement it. We don't ever differentiate based on hotel price. You come to Niagara Falls, it's so important that you're able to, I looked at your model yesterday on John's site, so important you're able to show hotels competitive pricing. Doesn't make any difference in my market. Or in the Toronto model, you get to Toronto, you type in a date, you better show me hotels that are available because I don't have 15 minutes to wade through this stuff. In my region, I want you to show me every single hotel in Laura Fergus. I don't care if it's booked because I'm busy trying to communicate back that there's a wealth of things to do here. So the necessity for that kind of customization drove our decision, and where Meridian's been really responsive and helpful is they've helped us with that customization. And I will tell you this, since I'm not being paid to speak and I don't feel like being gratuitous, Meridian's come a long, long way in the year we worked with them. The amount of work they've done in customization, the amount of thinking behind different tourism models. I mean, I do believe they started with a sort of big city-centric tourism model, and we threw in the regional tourism model. There's 13 RTOs in Ontario, and there's 3 like Joel, and there's 10 like the rest of us, and we're the 10 like the rest of us. And they really put their thinking behind how do you serve those other markets that are geographically diverse, how do you change the coding. As I said to you, those 4 regions aren't sufficient. We need 7 sub-DMOs. We need our DMOs to be able to put it on their site, represent their region first. When you look at points of distribution, the reservation system, the call center, on our marketing side of things, we use our I like sites. It's very obvious that by the time the DMOs have it on their site, the Stratford Festival has it on their site, the Drayton Theatres, which has 350,000 seats, now has it on their site. Our distribution model and marketing goes from 3 sites to 15. 15 sites, all pulling in the same direction, all after the same goal, which in our regions to grow tourism receipts by 25% in 3 years. We're 2 years into that, so next year is our measurement against that. But it's a hard number, and you got to have a hard number to know if you're going to hit it or miss it. I actually believe we're going to hit it. But you start, people say, well, the Sabera report said double your tourism economy. It's like, yeah, with no timetable attached. So I encourage you to put your own timetable against a reasonable number. And again, it's great to say double. If you give Region 4 $15 million a year, I think we can double our tourism economy. You give them $1 million, we'll shoot for 25% in 3 years. So that's it. That's best practices from our point of view.
Well said, David. I guess the question that comes to my mind flowed from your remarks about trying to have people in St. Jacob figure out what else there is to do around it. Are you going to do a separate mobile app, or would you look at the Meridian app, and if it had some mapping? So you've got the mapping that's in there, John.
Yes, so let me just,
If you plotted the attractions so that
that's already been discussed. What you're just talking about right now is already been discussed. The only reason it's not there is we threw all our resources on trying to get that mobile ready today.
Yeah.
So what you're talking about right now is, say for example, someone just got on this the bed and breakfast in St. Jacobs through the RTO site. You click on the B&B, you're going to turn around and instantaneously plotted right around that on the map are all the attractions, anything for sale. They'll determine whether it's a 5-kilometer radius or 10-kilometer radius, and bang there. So they can start to add into the shopping carts based upon more of a map-based system as opposed to the traditional category-based system. So you can turn around and sell that specific area based upon what's close by. So you've got a key driver. You turn it around. The Stratford Festival is the key driver in the area. Hotels will all be plotted close by. What other things? You're all categories on that map. Different icons, different colors for restaurants, different colors for attractions, the hotels. All purchased via the map-based system.
Because our challenge is going to be, we've got a mobile app, which is designed around, okay, you're leaving the convention center, you're leaving your hotel, what is there to do, where is there to eat, what's on tonight? That's the functionality. In that, in connection with what we're doing on the hotel resident, again, how do you get the apps linked and all that stuff, it's complicated. But for those places that don't want it, and seriously, the time investment of building a separate app, that kind
just another gateway. It's another way into the system. That once you build that code, it's easily portable to all the other DMOs. It's simply a gateway.
And it's a little different, Joel, in our situation. We just can't not package, right? If we don't package, we don't have overnights. We have two packaging specialists, Crystal and Karen Warren, who do nothing all day, every day, but solve problems and create compelling reasons to come to the region. As I say, we borrowed your model very much in all sorts of areas. We borrowed Karen Squire's model in terms of packaging, and then we sort of fitted it in our own way. I think you'll be able to look at our stuff in 6 months and say, oh, I think we need to do a little bit more package development.
Curious, you just touched on it, there's a couple of piece here working on the supporting system. Can you talk a bit about the resources you dedicate to packaging and distribution?
Yeah, I mean, you have an RTO, and you know the RTOs generally run budgets between $1 million and $2 million. I would say in the early phases between operations, product development, marketing, it was nearly a roughly 20, 50, 30 split. So development taking up the bulk of that in terms of implementing the system, putting it in place. And this is the one thing I will tell you. And Chuck, you're going through this right now. It is so critically important that when you go to implement this, you bring your DMOs on board, because it's an absolute earthquake for them. It's a game changer. They've never played in this field before, and they actually know their operators. And when they tell you this operator won't do that, they're not being gratuitous. They're saying, I've been doing this for 15 years, this operator. You're gonna need a different argument. So you work with them on that, but your resources go towards creating compelling reasons for people to join. So that 50% of the first year's worth of funding really went to the fact that we had to create a compelling system. So we went out and we offered it for free, no restrictions, and spent a lot of time and money building the core system. Now that's paid off. We went to market later than we wanted to, but we've been testing since September 1st, and to today, just testing sales were about 350,000 plus.
That's great. I was referring to HR resources.
HRs are the reason the development budget was so big in the middle is basically right away you need an operations person. There's a financial commitment to managing this, so it's got to be airtight in terms of operations. You're now working with top tier groups like Moneris, Payment Gateways, etc., and that's all got to be bulletproof, hygienically working. So you need a senior person as a project manager. Then you've also got to start to look, though, in terms of product, how are you going to develop a product that populates the system? That's where the two product development specialists came on, and in fact, we've hired consultants off and on throughout that same year to accelerate the product development side of things. We have a tech person who plays tech support on it, but the other key point was getting an agency of record who would work with us strategically. And if we didn't have an AOR that would work strategically, then more of that budget, even more of it would have gone into development in terms of strategy. We've been developing our strategy in concert with our agency for roughly a year. So I'd say in my organization we have 6 employees. 6 employees, and one of them works for me and 5 of them work for Navy, so to speak. But in terms of
more, it's not going to tell you.
What's that?
You have more employees, it's not going to tell you.
Yeah, there you go. But the interesting thing is after year 1, after getting to September, the bulk of that budget shifts to marketing, and now our marketing and communications budget is probably 80% of our annual. So but I can say, when John started this, I said, John, how many people do we need to sign up? And I don't know if he said 200. And I think he was just going, oh yeah, we'll see. And we came back, we said, we got 200 people signed up. And he said, what? But that really made a huge difference. That kind of critical mass allowed.
300 now.
We're up over 300 people on the system with almost 400 products. But it was really important. We want to get out there sooner with less, etc. We took a lot of heat for being 3 to 4 months behind our own implementation schedule. But when we finally go out with that kind of critical mass and we can see sales right away, and we start running press releases, you guys have been reading, most of you have been reading the press coming out of the region in the last month or 2. That success alone has sort of invigorated our operators and made them want to get on the system, made them want to join, and created that critical mass we needed. What do you want to know?
Yes.
No, he's got planned for the Stratford Festival. He's lucky.
Yeah, we Stratford Festival has been doing a call center for 40 years. They're really good at packaging the region. They, like everyone else, realize that if there's no loaves and fishes, you ain't come to the theater, right? So they're very good at working with accommodators and restaurants. They've been doing it for years, so we turned sideways and said, hey, can we enlist your services? Now, there's a learning curve there. There's going in and teaching Stratford that it really has to heavily push regions that are outside its current level of comfort, but it's a professional relationship. It's a fee-for-service thing, and it's not optional. They must push everything from Huron to Elora. They must push everything from Mount Forest to Cambridge, and they're stepping up to that really well. And then it's a fee-for-service thing. It's not an onerous fee-for-service either. We set a cutoff of X 1,000 hours in a given year. If we go beyond that, we'll renegotiate a fee.
And I think one of the key things, just to build upon what David's saying, RTO4 is really indicative of the vast majority of the province, is that it is characterized by a huge number of B&Bs, small vacation rentals. There's some major cities within there, of course, they have all the branded hotels. In their particular case, David stepped up and really brought Stratford Festival to the plate. Now, I can't give you the exact date, certainly in 2013, we will be giving every little B&B the ability to link from their website directly right in to the festival. Oh, I'm sorry.
The mic, or it's not going to be recorded on
Okay, I'm sorry.
video.
Going back to what I was saying, Stratford Festival is the key driver in the RTO4, and RTO4 is really indicative of the entire province. In some ways, the large jurisdictions like Ottawa and Toronto use this as a model as well. Within a very short time, somewhere in 2013, we're going to be giving every one of those gateways, all the DMO partners, even the individual B&Bs and small motels which use Meridian on their own personal websites, the ability to link in and use into the Stratford Festival ticketing system, which is their Tessitura, it's called. It's a very popular system. It's used across North America. Again, RTO4 is the banker. That linkage to that key driver is going to be one of the things I think propels this RTO4 system forward. We as Meridian are willing to do that. If it came back to Toronto again, where Mirvish is probably using Maxine Ticket King, or yeah, if they're using Ticket King, if Ticket King comes to the table, we turn around, we say, we create that interface into Ticket King. We create the same gateway for every single hotel in Toronto to drive traffic into Tourism Toronto system. Again, they can link from their own personal hotel websites in, package up themselves with all tickets from all the theaters coming in. They've got that guaranteed row 2, seat A, B, C, D. That's the type of thing that's on its way with Tessitura. That should be a model for the rest of the province. We're willing to do the work for those key attractions. We think we're going to sell more that way. We're going to have larger longevity by working with 2 or 3 key partners.